sense of your name, your studio, and maybe the purview that you kind of focus on within your role in that studio.
I really don't need this. I have a very loud voice. My name is John Papa. I'm with House of Cool. I'm currently the head of story for House of Cool, not just on a project. My role basically is I board on shows, on movies or shows if I have to. At the same time, I look out towards the artists. I'm not client facing. It's all about the artists. Trying to give them what they need, either mentorship if you're a junior, intermediate, even senior, but always trying to help them smooth out things, learn how to board. It's always a training mentorship in this industry anyways. You're always learning, because if you are a senior, you might want to be a lead. You might want to direct. So through your course there, you try to show them how we board, because House of Cool has a certain way of branding themselves or saying, if you hire us, this is what you get. This is how we tell the story for you. Other than that, I just act like a goof and I do funny drawings. That's about it.
Hi everybody. My name is Soo Jung. I'm a head of talent acquisition at Google Studio. We have been in the industry for about 23 years next month. And my major role at the studio is to look for talents from the juniors, even from the students, graduate, juniors, up to the senior and the management level. So my main focus is to try to find that talented people that are looking for to join the studio that has great projects going on and be able to have a good synergy between the artist and the production. I think that's it. No, actually there's one more thing. Recruitment itself became a little bit more needed after the pandemic hit, because it's not more based on about you coming to the studio, knocking the door. It's more about like you really applying. Our recruiting team really going and searching for those talents who are hidden behind your monitors in your place, right? So that's what I'm doing in the studio right now.
I'm Morena Protti. I'm as well from Guru, and I'm working mainly on Paw Patrol for the last 10 years. I just hit last month 20 years in this industry. Started to work from Italy and then moved to Canada shortly after, in Montreal, Vancouver, and then Toronto. Toronto did a few studios before hitting Guru, where Paw Patrol has been the steadiest kind of work I had so far. My role grew from character modeler to leader in the studio, as I was very proactive in helping other people to achieve the best in their model, design or technical wise. And so right now I'm basically a bridge between the director and the artist of my team to understand the part of the designs that they need to interpret into this 3D model, and also understanding how technically this can be functional for the 3D production along the way, because we are in modeling really the first brick of this 3D production. So before me there is just design. And therefore this model really needs to be able to animate light, rig, texture, etc. So there are a lot of technical aspects to marry the design aspect of it. Hopefully that gave you a good idea of what character modeling is. And I'm going to pass my microphone to Terry.
Thank you so much. Let me first start by saying I am fans of all of these people. I love them all. I've worked with many of them before in the past, and I miss them all very dearly. My name is Terry Riley. I'm the head of studio at Sinking Ship Entertainment in Toronto. We do mostly kids programming and a lot of our own stuff as well, which is really kind of helpful in today's climate. I was an illustrator in the early 90s and transitioned to film in the mid-90s. Just kind of at the infancy of CG, which was kind of an interesting transition, and worked my way up through the ranks and really touched every role until I got to the position where I am now, which is head of studio and VFX. So my role at the studio deals with everything from talent acquisition to project acquisition to VFX supervision to best practices to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. really just helping the partners to run the studio as a whole, and it's been a fun ride. We've been there for about 3.5 years now, and it was really the culture of the studio that drew me to them in the first place. And those guys have been true to their words, and I can't tell you enough how much that matters, and I'm sure that we'll touch on culture at some point soon.
Absolutely, thank you all. Fairly safe to say you're all fairly substantial size studios as well. So Kingship and Guru, a couple hundred each. I'm not sure how big is House of Cool these days, Joe.
We're around 100.
100. So you guys are big enough to have a lot of big problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
More money, more problems, more studio, more problems. So I don't want to focus primarily on problems, but problems often point to opportunities and solutions, right? The industry, I'm just going to really recap quickly, but pretty much going up into the pandemic and then through the pandemic, it was crazy. And I did a panel here, and 2 years ago, a year ago, at some point online, it's a blur at this point. I was in a studio on a Zoom doing something about, oh my God, we need more talent. Right? And every single studio was knocking on doors going like, where are we going to, I'm kind of half facing the audience, sorry guys. I just feel like I need to have like a separation here. That's how important I feel right now. Fairly safe to say that's changed a bit. I imagine there's still a demand for talent, but the we need as many people as possible problem has probably waned. I'm curious, what does it look like now for you in your studio in terms of, I'm just sort of focused on post-COVID. I know COVID had an impact, but I feel like we've done enough COVID talks to kind of get past it all. And that's not me trying to just kind of wish it away, but more of, we have other things to worry about now. What does it look like in your studio in terms of the challenges you face and what's causing those challenges? And I'm just thinking from a high level, but also, I know Marina, for instance, you're in the production side. What are the challenges you see in, let's start with you actually, see Terry, I need the microphone. What are some of the, yeah, everyone's gonna be, what are some of the challenges that you're noticing from your perspective in the studio? And it can be anything, but that you're trying to work through right now.
Personally, I find it's difficult sometimes, a bit like herding cats. Because when you were in studio, you would be all in the same area and you would be able to just see what people had on their monitor, be able to understand really what they were doing with the work. So really now there is much more need of communication from the side of the team, so letting me know when their task is done, ready to review, instead of me sort of being aware where they are at. Be very proactive in communication with them, have more one-to-one meetings where we really review their work on screen, which they like a lot more than I was sort of late hours during my day. I would do sort of like 11 to 7, but also because that allowed me to have time in the evening on my own to review work. But then I would send it by email with my revision. Now they really like, instead that we do this one-to-one on camera and we can go around their work and we can do live draw over and send them the notes, is way more interactive for them. The other part that they really like is when we are having more of a training session. So before we will be a lot of people around one computer and then the people on the second and third line cannot hear very well. So I know they're all in the same room and they can't really understand what's going on. We can even record the session. We can, if somebody was missing that day, they're not really missing it out at the end. So there is always a way to go back to these videos. So we are building up more libraries of content for new hires. So it's like, okay, good, nice to see you here. So these are the things you can focus on. We can just direct them to these videos instead of, it's already quite busy during work. Instead of having so much time and production is going. So then we can really focus on what are their specific challenges in which, instead of, sorry, this sometimes just come through. Instead of, just do a wide training. So these are the things that are helping. Definitely, there are challenges in deliveries. That's what I was saying, herding cats, because I have client deliveries. Times that I need to meet with to submit these client renders, and having everybody on board and communication need to be really fast. So these are probably the most challenging times. Other than that, we are quite functional to work from home. probably what is missing mostly from especially junior people is to have other people to rely on, because they are now working in their own room with no other artist just next desk to say, oh, that's cool, how did you do that? So I try personally to have meetings once a week, and I did that since beginning of pandemic. Actually, I've been particularly lucky. I was just graduated from a health and life coaching course. So that happened exactly as we entered pandemic, and so I was offering extra support to my team, trying to create that bridge that was missing between the communication studio and between us, and so even bring up what other people were working on and showing basically what the other people were working on, and then sort of also creating a bit of the team bonding that we were able to have in studio. So basically it requires a lot more proactivism and to be able to learn from each other, sending chat messages, but not just to one person, maybe to a group chat. If you have a question about something, basically you can bring it there. If you discover just something, you bring it there and somebody else can build on. So really, even myself, I can learn from other ways that other people can do. So in some ways it has helped, but it's trying also to recreate a bit of that environment where everybody was learning by just walking around and see the cool things everybody was doing. So I don't want to say too much the
you covered off so many ground. It's like, okay, so let's expand on this. I'm gonna just skip over and kind of go to Joe here for a second here. Sorry, this is like oh look, me, what? I'm supposed to go line. So you were head of story.
Yeah.
So you're still kind of, I know House of Cool being smaller and the dynamic nature of that studio, you probably wear as many hats as most of the people on the stage here. But from a production standpoint as well, building on what Moreno's talking about, what do you see from your perspective? And just to distinguish, does everyone know the different studios here? Like, it's maybe worth just quickly noting, like you guys are primarily feature with some television in pre-production, right?
Yeah, we started feature. That's what we were known for. That's where they made it, and then they slowly tried to bring in the TV stuff.
Right. Whereas Guru and Sinking Ship, primarily television.
We are mainly television, animated. We are both 2D and 3D. Currently, we have 3D shows going on, but mainly television and animated television shows.
Animated television, and then Sinking Ship.
Mostly television, but we just finished our first big feature.
Yes, that's exciting as well. So there's different kind of, the project can vary as well from a feature to a television, as we could probably all imagine. So Joe, from your perspective, similar to what Moreno was talking about, I actually really appreciate what you were describing. There was not just the problem, but the fact that in many ways this hybrid workplace, which I think is fairly safe to say, has become the standard model for all studios. You're going to have in office as well as out of office, and that kind of asynchronous nature of training and the fact that you can get more people together. So there's certainly benefits. What are you seeing from your perspective from House of Cool?
Well, there's a lot of similarities with Marina's breakdown of it. For me, we're all trying to be hybrid. We're all trying to accommodate in order to stay afloat. But what we find is that when it comes to, say, a senior artist will have all his skills like time management, work ethics. They've gone through the hardships. They've also, a senior now, pre-COVID, has experienced collaboration, and that's huge in animation. We need to be together. Like that's who we are. Like you were saying about being next to somebody and feeling it, the energy, or can you look at this right away? It's this immediacy. The one thing that we've been trying is the same as you, is we'd have like, 10 o'clock, let's get the crew on. We'll just talk. We'll just get to know each other, bonding. Your production person, production manager, I find they're like your lifeline, because the artists are always wanting to work, get it done, get it done, get it done. And sometimes it is hard to organize. And if you have a good production person, they're the cheerleader, rallying, scheduling, okay, no, you gotta come here, we're gonna do this. It might seem silly, but we're just gonna get to know each other. The one thing I did notice that is very hard, especially, I'm gonna say on a feature level, but it also is like, say, Netflix series, right? Where it's not, preschool. It's still a very engaging, very collaborative part. It's hard to usher the people into the studio. It's like, guys, we should be in the studio as much as we can, trying to get, like, say, Monday, you can work at home, Friday, work at home. Let's try to get 3 days in a row in the middle, but it's hard. People got used to wanting to stay home. Younger artists that never experienced in-house think this is the way it is, that I could stay home and I will learn the same way or just as much as you would in a studio. To my personal thing is yes and no. If you do have say your production people or seniors above you that push to get together, right? If we go beyond, and it is hard to be proactive a lot of times, you will have a good experience. But otherwise, you'll have younger artists that maybe their time management skills aren't great. Maybe they're, obviously when we're younger, our well of knowledge isn't deep. We only know so much. So if something goes wrong or you have a hiccup in your work, sometimes the younger artists will not raise their hand and get you on Zoom. They'll try to work through it. But if you don't know what you're doing or don't know how to get the answer, you have to ask. So we find people start spiraling into this, oh my God, they're gonna fire me because I'm not meeting the deadline. And so COVID in a way has tricked a lot of people into self-isolation. You think it's great, right? It is great a lot of times, but we need that contact. We need that, hey guys, look at this. What am I doing? Or what am I not doing? And all it takes is, hey, I need a little bit of help here. And then on, like at House of Cool, I've tried to bring in an art therapist for a session. Now this is gonna sound silly, but all of us, we're in an industry where if you think we're out in the wild, okay? We're out in the wild. We are a nice, squishy, soft animal, and animation is a lion. We by nature are conditioned to put our heart and soul into the artwork. Then we expose our soft belly and go, okay, do you like it? Right? So we're always exposing ourselves, and it weighs a toll on you because you want to please. We're in the role of pleasing the client, but we're also trying to be ourselves. The art therapy, I saw people losing morale. I saw people losing the focus. They didn't know how to get better. They, trying to individualize people and, make them count, make everybody count. Inclusiveness. You can't get everybody. Or if you're on Zoom, they turn off a camera. It's like, no, you guys got to turn on. I need to see your faces. Or when you pitch a storyboard, it is so intimidating, especially if you're younger. You're pitching and it's dead silent. Do they like my work? I thought it was funny. That's not like, in order to sell a joke in a movie or TV show, when you're pitching it, even the executives, if the executives hear the crew laugh, oh, keep that in. I don't know why they laughed, keep that in the end until nobody laughs. Mm-hmm. So these are the kind of things that, we're trying to work around everything, but it's also, to keep a studio alive, the artists have to contribute by coming in and being that culture. It's hard to be a culture when you don't have physical, interaction in the studio, right? You're just a screen, so you're going through the motions. And I've talked long enough, so.
Well, but I want to spin off this. Sorry, Sue, I'm going to jump over you because I have a really good question for you after this. But I'm going to move over to Terry, just to kind of build off that, because you did mention in your intro, I hope we talk about culture.
Yes.
I'm going to preamble with, and this will actually something I'll kind of go to you as well. The transactional nature of the career these days seems to be more prominent. And I use that word as transactional in that when you're at home and you're not inside of a culture in the studio, and I think as a studio owner, culture became one of the sticky pieces that kept people attached to you. There's a great book called Drive by an author named Dan Pink who talks about what motivates people to push forward in a professional capacity. And he basically says, money is what gets you to the table, right? So salary keeps you at the table. Culture is what keeps you growing. And that's his whole premise was, organizations need to focus on culture and developing people, the humans inside versus the talent, right? That's the kind of the difference of someone who does the job versus someone who's a person doing the job. I think COVID has changed that, and that the workforce is able to separate themselves and say, well, I got a better offer. And Joe, you and I were talking about like losing senior talent to the United States, right? I'm sure you all had some sort of experience with, well, someone from LA is called up and they're offering me a US salary, American salary, and I can stay here in Canada, woohoo, I can work. So I imagine that's a challenge that you face in a more kind of asynchronous hybrid environment than in-house. And I know you use culture as a way to sort of wedge into this idea, because I think culture is far bigger than keeping people in the seat, keeping them engaged. It's actually about nurturing more than that. Can you speak to what culture means for TAAFIxCASO and how that relates?
Absolutely. So like I said, one of the things I brought into the studio was the culture of the studio, and that's one of the things I kind of guard preciously as my time there has been going on. I think there are a couple of things that you can do to really nature that relationship with an artist. The first of which is that you have to give them an opportunity to grow, always. And you have to champion and celebrate their successes in ways that make them feel like they're really making progress and they're really appreciated. Those are the two things for me. And also, I think it's important as well to engage with them personally. I take it upon myself to reach out to every new artist and make sure that we really kind of know each other and to ask, how's the family, blah, blah, how's your cat doing, all that sort of stuff every day, because I think it makes a big difference. But to really let them know that you are on their side and you are part of the team that's going to make something great here, and that their input is always welcome. 1,000 people have said that good ideas come from anywhere, and it's absolutely true. And I'm willing and happy to hear every one of them, because all the time I'm surprised. And one of my favorite things is when an artist comes back to me and performs in a way or does something that I never could have expected, and it's far better than I could have ever done. And that's my best day. It's fantastic, and I make sure that they're aware of that.
And the book Drive talks about the idea of personal growth being one of the highest motivators to keeping people engaged. And to what you're talking about, recognition seems to be a big piece of that. So very quick aside, before we came here, I was at an under-8 soccer game, which is just exactly what it sounds like. There's 5 kids chasing a ball around the field,
Sure.
and most of the time running into each other. But one child today, it's the second last game of the season, got his first goal, and of course everyone cheered, and you could just see the change in him. And I can imagine what you're describing here is just as important. Like, you need to see your growth as a part of it. And I do want to, I'm going to move to you soon. I do want to talk about not just the studio's responsibility, but the artists as well. Now, your purview is HR as well as recruiting, right? So you're inside kind of nurturing culture and probably people, human resources, and then of course the recruiting side of things. I'm going to flip to recruiting in a moment, but to build on what Terry was saying, what is it you're looking for, or that you're encouraging artists within the organization to contribute back into culture? So it's not just about the studio ownership and leadership trying to maintain, like, guys, we'll do song and dance. I actually talked to a studio owner last week who said, well, we had Super Week last week. What's Super Week? He goes, oh, it's the best way to get people back into the studio. We had massages, we had some cheese makings, and I'm like, it sounds like a resort. And that's great. I think there's certain incentives for studios to do that. You do need to kind of like, hey guys, what if we had like free chocolate every day? So that's cool, but I think there's a role for the artists within the studio as well. What do you view that role as? Like, how do you see artists, and not just artists, but talent, and the people within the organization contributing to culture? And what are you doing to try and foster their kind of lean-in moments to help build culture?
Well, from the PNC side, which is People and Culture, HR, what we do is we always try to keep in touch and contact constantly with everybody in the studio. Like, Guru Studio itself is not in a hybrid mode right now. We're in a virtual, a remote first.
Okay.
And that's just because we ran service every year for the past 3 years, and we ask it, so do you feel comfortable? Do you think your performance is going up or low working from home? And that trend, that the rate has going up. Like, started with less than 70, and then went to 80, and this year went to 84%, if I'm not wrong.
So 84% of Guru surveys, or people surveyed, say, I want to stay
Yes, I want to stay at home because I perform better.
Okay.
And we did respect that, and that's why we kept the remote first, right? And as Jill said, when it comes to the remote, there's some difficulties, of course, like juniors, interns that are looking for like side-by-side mentorship. So what we do is we have a little bit more attention to those people. Make sure that they have the help they need whenever they need it. Like they cannot raise their hand because we won't be able to see it, but like we have chats available, we have group chats from the department, productions, like teams, everything that is open for them to ask for anything. Like, as I always say, there's no silly questions, you know? So anything that you have a question mark, reach anyone from PNC or your coordinators or even your producer, and they will find an answer for you or find someone who has the answer for you. And based on that, all of our artists, they know that whenever a junior joins, we always send out, of course, a notification to everybody, to the students, saying who joined us, which department, to which production. So everybody goes to them and greets them, and they know that they are welcome as a human being, not only another person behind the computer, right?
That's great.
So we have all the artists work together, and we have like other social communities, other different communities that we have everybody joining. And whenever they join, the first day we're like, okay, so what are you interested in? What are you looking for besides just the work? Because we want you to be part of the team, of the family itself, not just come, as you mentioned, just come work, get your paycheck, and you're done. We want to make sure that you're joining a team that you are you matter to us, such that through which we will be making 23rd anniversary next month. We have people that have been with us for 20 years, like 15 years. Like last year in our first tunnel in person during the entire COVID, we made all the recognition to everybody, to those people who have been for more than 10 years. And I had 2 slides going out with like 9 or 10 people on each slide. And then at a certain point, I was like, Frank, which is the president of the studio, I was like, Frank, maybe we just want to skip it. You just spent too much of time on that. Right? So people do stay with us. They know that it's not only about the company, it's about like the life. Like everybody helping everyone.
I want to start focusing on probably the people in the audience and the skills that, from a studio perspective, we need to start thinking about. So, as I've been working in the college sector for actually 20 years, but as a teacher 14, 15 years in Seneca primarily. And a big focus of mine was professional development for artists. So as you're leaving, what are the skills you need beyond being a really capable artist that will help you succeed? And for the longest time, it was the number one thing is you need to learn how to network, and you need to learn how to goal set, so that you have a career objective in mind, and then you need to learn how to communicate and see yourself as a professional in an organization. Like there's a lot of reframing. I still think those things apply, but I'm curious about, from your perspective, and I kind of call this a jump ball here, because I don't know who to go to on this one, but the skills that you're starting to see become really important for career success individually, not just for the studio's benefit, but for the artists or the talent. And say artists as a bit of an encompassing, you could be working in technical, you could be working in administration or production, you're an artist in some form or fashion. What are the skills that you think are the most predominantly important that has changed over the past couple of years, or has become more important? And I'll kind of caveat that with hybrid, and I think an industry that tends towards introversion, right? And I think this is said with all the love of my heart as an extrovert. There's a lot of people I know in this industry, when we went offline and went home, they're like, yes. And it wasn't like, it was nothing to do with, because I actually got told once when I worked for someone else, oh, you're never in the studio. I'm like, I'm more productive at home, right? I think there's a lot of upside to it, but the introversion then gets nurtured too much. And there's, I think, a need to kind of break through that shell. What are the skills that you think kind of go alongside this to help the artist succeed in a place where you can basically just show up, roll up to your desk and go, and not have to do anything else? Like, I'm not sure if I framed this question in a meaningful way, but I'm gonna, maybe Marina, because you're the first last time. Do you have thoughts here? If not, I've just kind of put you in the headlights here. She's up to the challenge.
So I'm actually an introvert, though I come off as an extrovert, because as an Italian, I'm very shy, and as a Canadian, I'm really out there. So I've been battling this thing since ever. Now I've been very, very lucky, with the new technology that came with working from home, and as Sue was saying, we are mainly a remote studio. I did WhatsApp call with my family for so many years now. So I'm very used to do interaction with these kind of tools. Also for other things, we were using Zoom outside work anyway. So for me, it was a bit more natural, and I was lucky in that sense. Though I did see that other people were having more challenges with coming on camera. And for me, it was really learning about what their challenges were. Because all the help I could see online was about how to help your team overcome these fears. And could be also technical issues, just give them the tech to go around with it. And then we got even better tools with faded background and noise cancellation. So things really helped, but also really be able to be there for the person that is receiving. It was a bit daunting, especially at the beginning. I had to do a training, and most of the camera were off, if not all of them. It was really hard to teach to dark void. So really what we are looking into is to be able, not just for the artist, but even for the person that is training them, really to give them some feedback of some sort. So, if a person really cannot get around being on camera, at least give a good vocal feedback, because I cannot see that you're nudging. I don't know how is your reaction, are you understanding fully? So really being at least a good verbal communicator that does help us tremendously. So that is something that is helping me in order to train your best and see where something might need to be taught in a different way, because maybe the way that I say was not so clear. So it's really that feedback to help me to help you that is really fundamental. Then overall as a character, we do really appreciate. Like in general, we are very chilled, so some friendliness overall, humbleness, like be able to receive the criticism. We are not rough per se, but basically it's a work for hire. So we are doing work that is for client, is not our personal project. So we're trying to all achieve the same goal, and we're just trying to help you to go in that direction and have something that is outstanding, and that's what we really aim at Guru. I grew up so much as an artist just there. It was really incredible, starting from Frank, which is the owner, really through his criticism, his feedbacks, I really challenged myself more to become really the best artist he could have. And so we try really to nourish our artists that way. And for having that, it needs really to have open communication from the artist. As Gianpo was saying, if you are a bit unraveling around a question, don't spend more than 15 minutes around it. Like, go and talk with your mentor, your leader, the other chats where is about that kind of argument. In that way, you just have to go through. We're about delivery, we're about production. We are time constraints, so we cannot spend a day on a problem that maybe somebody else is the answer for you. So yeah, this again, I want to leave space for other people as well to answer.
No, it's great. And I take from that the need for proactive communication. And that, especially when you're not used to it, if you're a graduate, and some people here are students, it's one of those pieces that it's a human quality you need to nurture just in general. Around, it's easy to kind of have camera off, microphone off, and just kind of tough it out. But in many ways, that's more likely to set you up for disaster than success. Terry, I'm going to kind of flip to you just to expand on that question. Like, do you have other skills, other advice? Like, where do you see people need to focus in this environment to be able to be successful for themselves as well?
Communication is obviously one of the most important things, especially now that we're not as face-to-face as we used to be. So is collaboration. Can I share with you a thought experiment that I did
Absolutely.
at Sync and Ship when I first started at the studio? I arrived mid-2019 and kind of got a sense as to what was happening in the studio and where things could be maybe improved and made better. I brought all of the senior leadership into the studio and said, I want you to go back to your desks. Everyone open Photoshop or whatever other image software that you have at your disposal. Open it. Make a salmon-colored square and send it to me. And so half an hour later, of course, I got 40 different versions of the square. The lesson was not only is it our job to ask for better direction, but to give better direction. And I think as leaders and as artists in this kind of hybrid environment, that is so important.
And it's an interesting angle as well. It's a group effort. It's not the studio administration's job. And this is kind of like us speaking sort of over your shoulder advice here around, don't expect the studio to make all the changes necessary to accommodate, but also, you know, I think the studio needs to be able to see that, you know, that role.
Exactly.
I'm getting a little bit messed up in my head here where I'm going. You guys probably get the idea. It's a team effort. And this, I think, speaks to production in general, right? When you're graduating, it's a team effort. Okay, I'm kind of wandering on my questions here. We've got about 15 minutes left. I do want to leave time for QA, but I want to keep going on the skills. But from a recruiting standpoint, people here today are upstairs mobbing booths, trying to get jobs, right? Awesome. This is why we built Job Fair in the first place. I think there's a couple of qualities that you're going to obviously say, well, here's what we're looking for. From a studio, what are the qualities you're looking for beyond the portfolio? I do want to get back to the portfolio in a second, but beyond the portfolio, what are the qualities you're looking for when you're hiring? Well, I'm assuming you all have, I mean, at least 3 of you, Marina, I assume you're deep into hiring when it comes to your own department as well. Yeah. What are the qualities? And I'll start with you, Joe, and I'll kind of just down the line here. In terms of like beyond artistic skill, what is it you're looking for and listening for in a meeting here, or in any kind of interaction with a potential employee?
Before we got so big, Ricardo Curtis, and Wes Louis, who owned the studio, Rick would personally interview people. We would interview people. Oh, this is great. This is great. This person seemed nice. You know, we're kind of like, oh, he or she is shy. This person expert. Rick will go in and ask them the most oddest question you could find. He will throw you off. It's the response. It's like if you were an oddball, if you were unique in some way that it's not, you know, the cookie cutter response. It's like, okay, this person's got something, they think out of the box. I like this. Then it's also the vibe you get. How interactive are these people? Even if they're shy, it's a feeling, it's a vibe, it's collaboration. It's you're still able to get a sense of teamwork a lot of times, how people work. Because like we were talking about culture, House of Cool's culture wasn't enforced. Rick brought people
You have to be cool.
No, it's not even that. It's not even that. Rick brought people in that collaborate, that share, right? Your peer, you're helping each other out. It's almost like you're in, like you are a family, but you're in the grind together. You're in deadlines together. Sometimes you stress out together. That's what causes the bonding, right? You're there for each other. Even if it's like, hey, I like that brush you use. Oh no, I just do this and this. Can you think I can have it? Yeah, sure, thank you. That little spark, I draw a lot better now. That's the culture, right? That in any studio. It's not us that makes the culture. It's all the artists, and a safe place. So we're looking for that. We're looking for that openness. You're not, you know, dead set in your ways, and the ego you leave at the door, right? We're there to help each other make a good film, right, together.
If I could build on that, just to move it even to more actionable advice, Sue, I imagine, because I see all the heads nodding, like vibe check is an important part of, and I've been there. I've had people who are grossly overqualified for a job. I'm like, my God, this person's going to carry the entire project. But their attitude was wrong, and you could tell. And it's like, you don't need one, it's going back to soccer, you don't need, if anyone's watching Ted Lasso, you don't need one Zava, right? Or you don't Messi. You need the entire team, right? You need someone who can defense. So it's all about teamwork. Let's figure that word out. The question is, okay, that's good. You guys are looking for it. What does someone who's applying to a studio need to show you, or what? Give us like a tactical assessment. What is it you're looking for? What should people do? I'm leading the question because I know what I would like to hear answers. To make themselves known as collaborative people, to show and demonstrate that they have, you know, the vibe check in advance. Like, what would you recommend?
So the first thing is like, regardless if you're introverted or extroverted, be curious. And make sure that your camera's on. Like Marina was saying, I'm a very introverted person. I might not look like, but I'm very, very introverted because of the Asian background that I have, but at the same time, I'm from Brazil, believe it or not. So I have that extroverted vibe going around, so I can adapt, be a chameleon when I have to, but once I turn off the computer, I'm like, oh my God, did I hurt anyone's feelings? What happened? But still, I'm very curious, and I expect everybody to be curious, because that's what will lead you to the next level. That's what will be able to have our studio team members be able to help you to grow, you know? And one of the reasons that we ask always to have the camera on is because if you're very introverted, no matter how many times we ask, do you have any more questions? They will be like, no, but then you have a big question mark on your face. And I'm like, are you sure? Like, trust me, no question is stupid. No, every question counts. It's very important. They're like, no. And then after you ask for 3 times, they're like, oh, you know what, actually? And then it comes. So that's on my first screening and the first interview, that's what I do. Like, be curious, don't be shy in asking. There's no full questions at all. And then once you do it, the moment that you were able to make that first question, whenever you're meeting with the interviewers, the supervisors, the leads, you'll be able to make those questions. And that's where we'll see that you are really interested in being part of the project, being part of that great team, not only looking to get your first job. You know?
Yeah, totally. That's exactly where I was hoping we'd end up with this, which is oftentimes I notice there's the I need a job factor in applying for many of these studios. But the advice I often hope to hear from people who are hiring or people that are just asking for it is, you need to learn about the studio, you need to be curious about the studio, you need to look under the hood and go, what's the vibe here? TAAFIxCASO has this vibe, Guru has this vibe, it's a kingship. I mean, the vibe eventually becomes fairly similar. We work in a creative industry, you're not gonna have massive divergence, but it's still important to be able to see yourself as more than just a capable set of skills, but actually someone's gonna be a part of the team. I'll go ahead.
Oh, actually, and another stuff very important is that whenever you're applying for a job, make sure that you know which job you are applying for. Really. Because sometimes they go, oh, so you applied for our one of the show, Paw Patrol. So what attracted you to apply for that job? They're like, oh, actually, I never watched the show, but you guys had this posting open, so I'm applying. So we're like, you're applying for a show that has been going for like almost 10 years. You never watched it, but you're just applying for it. I don't think that's the vibe that we're looking for. Not only for our studio, but most of the students. They really want to have someone who is really interested. It comes again to the curiosity. Who is really interested, who really is looking to join something that you know what you are joining. So that would be another tip.
That's a great tip. I'm going to move over to Marina as well on this, and Terry, to expand on that idea of don't just show up with the work you've done, but also demonstrate, I get a sense from you, so you demonstrate a sense that you've done some research and you're trying to connect yourself to the role. Marina, in your experience, what has been the standout quality of a portfolio or of an applicant to a role that you might be hiring? Like, you know, let's say within your realm. What's that?
In the character modeling.
In the character modeling
Okay.
world,
How
beyond
many
just being.
characters, fighting modelers do we have here?
Maybe we have 3
Really?
or 4.
4-ish, maybe? Okay.
Don't be shy.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, yeah, I specialize specifically on characters. So, you know, maybe at the beginning you might have a demo that has a few pieces just because you want to get a job anyways. But, you know, if your focus is vehicles, then do predominantly vehicles. If it's character, predominantly characters. And yeah, I don't mean robots with that, I mean organic things. Especially if you're applied, let's say, on PAO, you are going to look for a style that is similar to PAO. I don't want to see visual effects kind of character or environment or props. So really try to tailor your demo, your ArtStation page, whatever, or at least the one that you're submitting for this specific job role. More to the kind of work you will be doing. If you don't want to do something, delete it. If something is not contemporary but you're super attached to it because you drew it 10 years ago, probably it's not contemporary now, so delete it. Feel free about it, it's really liberatory. The other thing, we look for art that has care, because if you don't care, why should us? Should we? Yeah. And really something that has a bit of a story. I talked to a few people this morning already. Show us your reference image, or is it something that just you model right away? Is something that came to your mind and right that this is something that you were just speed sculpting or something. But if you have a reference, either your or some other picture, pure ref, gallery of images, or even just I'm trying to reproduce this one, my own style. Like, give us a bit of a background about your piece so we can understand, because really our job is we get 3/4 of a design and then we are going to do that through number of revisions, of course. But we don't just do things with no reference, and we want to see how is your interpretation, your design skills. So we are looking for people that can show a good eye, good sense of proportion, understanding of anatomy, if you're doing organic things or if you're doing mechanical things. Probably don't get lost if you're doing for characters in modeling all the boards. Sorry, for cartoons, for information. Yeah, don't get lost in modeling all the boards, because that's probably not our kind of style. We do like to see a wireframe of your model, because our models need to be functional and pass through all the steps of collection. So we want to see how that could work, and at least give us a sense of the gaps we have to fill in for you once we hire you. And then also a good 360 shaded and a wireframe, or wireframe at least some images. If you have a full character, we'd like to see as well a close-up of the face, because the topology of the face become very small when you see the full character, and we want to see a bit more in detail of that. A couple of good shots. We don't care in modeling so much about the materials, at least where we work, because our quite big studios. The modeling artists will only do modeling, and then that will be passed to shading. So unless you want to also apply for shading, don't worry too much about it, just put a simple shader, put a nice lighting and render that. So don't have to really get lost in learning substance if you're applying for a modeling position. So just get focused on that. Really, what we want to see is also a portfolio that is sort of active, that there is work at least every 6 months, there is something. Because you're not going to build up your skills by just doing one work that you did at school. It's really the journey of $10,000 in order to achieve the master. You need to get the job, and consider also that you guys are competing with people that are already working. So there is also that extra challenge of making an outstanding kind of piece. So you can look already around what is going for. You can definitely ask for mentorship and ask, hey, what is lacking in my demo? What would you like to see? And we did that for other artists. They show us their demo, and then they're like, what should they do? And we told them the kind of modeling we were expecting them to see in order to apply to our job, and they put in the work, and then we hired them. So that can be something that you can build upon. Don't just get crushed on your first. Rejection is probably just teaching you that what is here doesn't work for us. It might work in another environment, another kind of job for sure. But if you really want to work with us, then we can help you to build the skills, or give you at least the addressing of what you have to feel in order to apply for us.
I'm gonna summarize that in a way beyond just character, if I can. And I'm gonna open up, we have 5 minutes, I'm gonna give you guys sort of a free-for-all on advice here. What I'm hearing though is lean in to your portfolio. Don't just take what you've done as a graduate and say, here it is, am I worthy? But, and this kind of goes also what Sue was mentioning, and probably all 4 of you would agree, research the studio and show something that's relevant. If you don't have relevant, start building relevant materials. Exclude things that aren't relevant to the role, so know the role. If you're going for a modeling job or an animation job, know your audience, and a modeling supervisor, an animation supervisor don't want to see something from the other side of the pipeline unnecessarily. And it's not just an evaluation of you as a person, it's an evaluation of your fit. But then once you've figured out your area, try to show more than just end product. And this is the advice I often give to most students, and I imagine most students agree. It should be more than just, here's the end result. Show process, show detail, help people tell a story. I always joke about how you have 5 minutes, you have 30 seconds to capture someone's attention, if less, but you have 5 minutes to really take advantage of it. And if you haven't communicated by then, you're kind of shortchanging yourself. And just to keep going, like, don't just stop with your graduate work. Keep going. I think it's interesting that if anyone's graduating this coming week, and you haven't had a job in a week, you should be then working on projects of your own, right? Find the studio that you want to work at, and maybe do a model from Paw Patrol, or watch a sinking ship show. Apple TV Jane just came out, looks great. Keep building your skills so that if there's a dream job, you're going after it. I wanted to talk about growth inside the studio, but I'm going to save that for another case of time. And instead, with the last few minutes we have here,
Can I say one thing about that?
Of course, yeah.
So, growth inside the studio, well, we are very big about generally, if somebody wants to become a leader at a point, even if they're junior, we're very happy to hear about that. I'm going to tell you an anecdote. So this guy had 7 years of ZBrush teaching, but no production experience. So he was already in his late 20s, early 30s, so it's like, he was a bit eager to start off getting a more important position. So he came to me after just 2 months. He was hired and said, Morena, I know that I'm just a junior and I just started, but I want to become like you. I want to become a leader. Like, okay, I'm going to get you to become a senior first. So there, we are going to challenge you. Every single task I'm going to give you is going to be something that you're going to learn from. I'm not just going to give you something that is comfortable, that I know that you can do. I'm really just going to pull you in that direction, because if this is your goal and you want to achieve it fast, then you have to really work hard on it. It's going to be tough, but I'm going to be here all the way. I'm going to train you, and we're going to get there. And also told him that extra courses he could do on the side. He did really a treasure of that pandemic thing. He did a lot of courses, lettering, softwares, like you name them, and really prove himself on the work. And when there was the opportunity for a leading position, after 2 years, he got it. And we can say there were people hired at the same time. They were like, how did he speed up so fast? And it's like, because he told us. He told us that he wanted to grow, and that enabled us to make him grow. Okay, so if we don't know, we just give you this kind of assignment we think fits you, and maybe as a bit of training, but in a much slower way. So really, if you can help us so much to help you.
I have a saying I tell my kids, you have to ask to get. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really good kind of input there around, you have every opportunity to grow if you take it. I'm going to give you each just, one piece of advice, group of people looking for careers, maybe at your studio or elsewhere. What's the kind of the core piece of advice in today's day and age that you think is the most relevant to helping people move one step further to their goal in their career? Joe, we'll start with you and just go right down the line. Oh, we got to send the microphone all the way back.
The one piece, especially now when the industry is kind of sloping and sometimes you have to let people go even though you don't want to, always work on yourself in your own hours. Just like Marina was saying, that a lot of young people coming out of school are expecting to be taught in the studio. We're trying to mentor, but we can't just openly spend time to fully teach. We're always telling everybody, just in case, because the industry's so volatile, Disney shuts down, Blue Sky shut down, Disney didn't shut down, but other outlets. So everybody's always shocked. Now what do? I haven't been working on any portfolio. Always work on bettering yourself. It could be a course. It could be, if you, let's say with us, you want to be a story artist. If you're a revisionist, always work on something, and then you show people internally, so that if anything does go wrong, you have something immediate. But if nothing goes wrong as far as you get laid off, now you have something. We need to move some people up from revisions because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make professionals. Have you seen so and so? They've been showing me this. Oh, let's take a look at it. So you're always working on yourself. Don't always rely on the studio knowing that they can do it for you. Right? It's not school anymore. You have to take ownership. That's all I got.
Great advice. Sue?
Yeah, just to add a little bit on what Joe was saying, like studios don't have a crystal ball with that. So we cannot guess what you're doing or what you're looking for or how much you have improved. So always come to us. Keep the network going on. Keep in touch, in contact with other supervisors or the artists that you know. Like I have several number of students that comes to me every quarter. Like I have updated my portfolio with some of my personal work. Can you have a look? Like I'm not an artistic person, but I have a little bit of eye after working for over 15 years in this industry, right? So when I see there's some improvement, I bring that person to my supervisor's attention, say, hey, look how the person improved during the course. Like even without having a job, they invest in themselves to bring their skills to another level, right? And believe it or not, although we have like hundreds and hundreds of people applying every day, we do keep all the database. So I don't have the name of like thousand people on my program right now. That's why I have my laptop going on, but we do have those being updated daily basis, like actually really having like say, hey, this person had this work 3 months ago. Now they have this much. We should give us a chance for this person. And that's what really makes you stand out. So make sure to, like Joe was saying, and Marina and Tara was saying, keep improving your work, keep improving your skill set. Even if you're employed or not, make sure to continue working on it and make sure to share it with those who are professionals, experienced, to give 1 or 2 tips. Those 2 cents that they give to us, to you, is very, very valuable. It's something that you won't get to like for free from anyone, but like keeping those networks who can give that service to you is very precious. It's one of those that might be able to open the door for your dream job actually. So make sure to keep working and keep the network going.
We're going to have to make the last 2 short because I realize we're almost 5 minutes over, which is great. We have so many great things. Marina and Terry, maybe just briefly, maybe do you mind if we jump to Terry just because you had a really good run there? Just Terry, very quickly on any kind of a building on that or other advice.
This is terrible. I'm just going to echo what everyone else has said. I also have my own stuff going on the side for a bunch of different reasons, not the least of which is that if I don't personally make pictures, I'll go crazy. And I don't get to do a lot of that these days at work. But my own stuff is the only time I get to decide me when it's finished, and I don't have a deadline, so I can make it as great as I want to. So my own personal work is by far my favorite, and I would encourage everyone to keep that up.
Great advice. And Marina, why don't you finish this off?
So, hearing A, B, and C. Totally on. The thing is that sometimes might be challenging. You might think, oh, I have enough work built from the studio. Sometimes the studio bankrupt, you cannot bring your work into the demo. That's another reason why you should keep on doing some personal work. Some work where you are actually learning from. So in order to upgrade yourself with your skills in general. Now, sometimes it can be difficult to be constant with it. So some ways to do it is to inscribe yourself to a course where there is an end goal, to do a new piece basically and really do something that is demo worthy. If it's something that you're looking, let's say on YouTube or Twitch, there is, if you don't put this in action, there is no really implementation of what you just learned. So really put in action what you learn. If it's really still challenging, maybe you can team up with some friends, with some classmates of your or ex-colleagues, whatever. So in order to do maybe a little project of your own, in this way also you can advance your project to not just be one piece, but maybe something that have to be even animated, because everybody has their own skill to put together, and then there is that extra camaraderie, that extra excitement from each other, and these weekly meetings or periodical meetings where you feel you have to deliver something even for your team. So that might be really helpful for you to really continue to pursue your personal demo. That personally has helped me a lot to build up my personal demo, especially at the beginning. I had a lot of collaboration, did extra projects all the time, so that really is something that we want to also see your take on things without a director completely changing every comma of your work. So that really helps us as well to understand you better.
There's so much more. I had room for audience Q&A and we run out. So hopefully our guests can stick around a little bit. I'm going to try my very best. It's a new trick I learned recently to summarize our panel. I'm going to try and do it as quickly as I can. Fortune favors those who lean in. And I think that what I'm hearing here is the studios where an